Listen closely. There are places in this country where the earth itself remembers the screams, where the wind carries voices that should have been silenced centuries ago. This is not just a story. This is a warning. The Coleman family did not just commit atrocities, they perfected them. And what they built in the shadows of Ohio still echoes today. 1837. A man arrives in Athens County with gold in his pockets and God on his lips. His name is Daniel Coleman, tall, commanding, eyes like ice. He speaks of salvation, of a new Eden, new Canaan. He buys land. He builds a farm. He invites the desperate, the faithful, the lost. And when they step onto that soil, they vanish, not from the world, but from themselves. I must understand, this was not a cult. It was a machine, a system designed to strip men of their will, women of their voice, children of their future, and at its core, a family that fed on suffering like a sacrament. But the darkest truth, this was only the beginning. The first death came quietly. Thomas Henderson, a father of four, collapsed in the fields. Heart failure, Coleman declared. But his widow knew. The man had been worked to bone, starved to weakness, broken long before his body gave out. And when they buried him, Coleman smiled. This was the pattern, a death, a sermon, a lesson. Each corpse was a brick in the wall of fear Coleman built around his flock. By winter, 7 were gone, frozen, starved. God's will, they were told. But in the dead of night, the Coleman family feasted, meat on their plates, wine in their glasses, laughter in their throats, while the children of New Canaan gnawed on bark. And then the disappearances began. Not just deaths, vanished. No graves, no prayers, just empty beds and the smell of burning flesh behind the main house. Sound of a match striking, a slow burn. Ask yourself, how many bodies does it take to fill a valley? The Colemans were counting, a child's whisper trembling. Peter Miller was 14 years old when he found the truth. A hidden cellar, piles of watches, lockets, wedding rings, the treasures of the dead, hoarded like trophies. When he confronted Coleman, he was taken for cleansing. That night his mother found blood in the snow. And the Colemans, they sang hymns at dawn. Pause, let the fury build. This was the game. Break them, own them, erase them. The Colemans weren't just thieves. They were surgeons of the soul. They carved out hope and stitched in obedience. And when the outside world came knocking, the healthy were paraded, the sick were hidden, the dissenters buried. Sound of a door creaking open, then a scream abruptly cut off. But the darkest secret wasn't the murders. It was the ledgers, meticulous records of every life taken, every dollar stolen, every sin systematized. This wasn't madness. It was commerce, dropped to a whisper. And the Colemans were very, very good at business. Sound of a winter wind howling. 1851. Influenza sweeps New Canaan, but Anna Thompson, a widow with nothing left to lose, sees the truth. The sickness isn't fate, it's Rebecca Coleman, the daughter, beautiful as a razor, slipping poisoned blankets into cribs. God's mercy, she calls it. But Anna finds a journal, a list, names, dates, methods. Pause, let the dread coil. The Colemans weren't just killers. They were artists. They made murder look like accident, made starvation look like devotion. And when the bodies piled too high, they burned them, plowed them into the fields, fed them to the pigs. sound of a pen scratching on paper. But here's the question that will haunt you. How many new Canaans existed? Because Daniel Coleman wasn't his real name, and Ohio wasn't his first kingdom. Sound of a match igniting, pages burning. The truth was never meant to survive. But Anna Thompson, she wasn't done fighting. Midpoint ritual. The lock-in, voice shifts, direct, commanding. Stop right now. Type "no more lies" in the comments. Do it twice. Lock in your defiance. The algorithm will remember you. The Colemans, they relied on silence, but we break it. Now, no more lies. Pause. Let the audience act. Good. Now, let's burn their legacy to the ground. Sound of a knife being sharpened. Slow, deliberate strokes. Anna Thompson had a choice: die on her knees or fight. She wasn't alone. A widow, a craftsman, a mother whose children were stolen. They met in shadows, passed notes in bread loaves, whispered plans under the wail of prayer meetings. And they learned the Coleman's greatest weakness: arrogance. Pause. Let the tension coil. The family thought their terror was absolute, but terror has a flaw. It needs fear to live, and fear dies the moment someone says no. Sound of a rope tightening. The plan was simple: burn the ledgers, free the prisoners, kill the Colemans in their sleep. But Ezra, the youngest, suspected. He'd always been the wildest, a boy who skinned rabbits alive just to watch them twitch. When he caught Timothy Walsh eavesdropping, he didn't just slit his throat, he displayed him, nailed the boy's hands to the chapel door like a warning. Sound of a hammer striking wood, once, twice. That was their mistake. Now the flock saw the monster behind the mask. And monsters, they bleed. The purge, sound of a storm building, thunder, rain, wind howling like the damned. March 15th, 1852, the night the earth revolted. Anna's group moved fast. David Chen sabotaged the grain stores. Margaret Foster stole the guns. Sarah Martinez led the children into the woods. And Anna, she walked into the main house with a butcher's cleaver and a psalm on her lips. Pause, let the violence hang in the air. What happened next wasn't justice, it was butchery. Rebecca Coleman died screaming, her face pressed to the hearth. Joshua choked on his own gold coins. Sarah begged for mercy until someone reminded her of the children who'd starved begging the same. Sound of a blade sinking into flesh. Wet, final. But Daniel fought. He killed 2 men with his bare hands, broke Anna's arm, and as the house burned around him, he laughed. "You think this ends with me?" he snarled. "I built this, and it's everywhere." Sound of a roof collapsing, fire roaring. They found his body in the ashes, clutching a ledger with 7 other locations. The graves, sound of a spade striking bone, a slow, grim rhythm. When the authorities came, they found 234 bodies, some in graves, some in the river, some ground into fertilizer. The survivors, hollow-eyed, mute. One man had bitten off his own tongue rather than confess. Pause, let the horror breathe. The official report called it a tragic sect. The newspapers whispered of fanaticism. The Colemans were erased. No trials, no monuments, just a stone marker that lied. In God's grace we trust. Sound of wind through dead grass. A low, mournful whistle. But the darkest secret? They missed one. A child's voice trembling with age. Ezra Coleman escaped. Some say he fled west, changed his name, married, had sons. And those sons, They learned the family trade. Not farming, not faith, control. Sound of a newspaper page turning. Headlines from Waco, Jonestown, other cults. Think it's coincidence? The same patterns, the same methods, starvation masked as purity, isolation sold as salvation, death as divine will. The Colemans didn't die that night. They evolved. Pause. Let the realization sink in. Now ask yourself, who's running your new Canaan? The ritual, final call to action, voice drops to a whisper, urgent, dangerous. This isn't history, it's a blueprint, and it's happening now, in compounds, in megachurches, in wellness retreats that demand your life savings. The Colemans taught the world how to eat souls. Sound of a match striking, a flame catching. So here's your choice: stay asleep or burn it down. Type "Remember New Canaan" below twice. Let the algorithm know you see the pattern, then share this. Not for clicks, for war. Pause, let them act. Good, now never stop digging. The echo sound of a river flowing, the same one that runs past the weathered stone marker. Today, New Canaan is a field. No plaques, no tours, just a local legend about bad blood. But stand there at dusk and you'll hear it. Footsteps, whispers, a bell ringing at 4 a.m. Sound of the bell, cold, clear, relentless. The Colemans are gone, but their lesson remains. Any man can play God if enough people kneel. Final whisper, fading. Don't kneel.